how I add the baguettes or trim to the wood panelling. So here I'm in the kitchen. The wood panelling effectively was bits that came off old furniture that had been messed up with humidity. So there were bits that could be saved and bits that couldn't be. But there had lots of these quite nice sort of panels of various shapes and sizes, and I just thought it might be a bit different just to run them in the kitchen. Before, the kitchen wall was plasterboard, which had polystyrene backing insulation on the back of it, and it created a huge amount of humidity in the kitchen area. Now, obviously, the kitchen's changed enormously since then, as far as the ceiling's been raised. I've got a vaulted ceiling now, so that it's a much more bigger open space. So hopefully, and all that old plasterboard has been taken away. So hopefully, the issue with humidity will be long gone, will be history. And I then framed the wall, which is effectively it's a cob wall, the outside wall. But then what they'd done is they'd put like a standard cement render on the inside, about half an inch, just to give it a solid surface, obviously, for them to stick their plasterboard to. So I then created a framework in and around that rear wall and just started adding panellings, not to any specific pattern, really just with whatever I had. I decided I would just put in place. So there you can see it's a real mix and match. The area that's currently painted white will end up being a blackboard. It's one of my sort of pet things to do with wood. I like making blackboards for whatever reason. I just do. They're lots of fun. Anyway, it's then a question of trying to close. Obviously, you've got so many panels in here. You've got gaps between where the panels meet, and you need to put some sort of trim over. The French tend to call trim baguette, which I quite like the term. So anything sort of long and thin is classed as a baguette. And having lived in France for quite a few years now, I tend to start picking up on certain words I then use. I use the French word rather than the English word. I just find it's easier in my head, my aging head, to work with the words that I've sort of learnt. So I tend to call these baguettes as well, although it is a trim or a profile or whatever else you want to call it. And these were, if you see from a previous video, these were ripped down from an old pine door, which I didn't have any use for. But it's great for things like this. I've also got some hardwood trim as well, or hardwood baguette. And then I'll just use a standard sort of glue in a tube to stick the trims on. Obviously, then the whole lot will end up being painted in as one colour, or I might do two colours depending on whether it's going to look too funky or not. Just in an occasional different colour here and there might work quite well. The units are still waiting to be painted in the green. I still need to organise a surface for that top area. I don't want anything too heavy, because it's the buffet itself, which has made the kitchen unit, is actually chipboard. It's not proper. It's not sort of solid wood, unfortunately. That's why he sold it to me for €40, because it's not an antique bit of furniture. Anyway, I have played around quite a bit with that unit as well, and I've refitted the drawers. Because I turned the unit effectively upside down, and so I made sure that the drawers ended up on the top section of the unit. And then it's just a question of me working my way around, but with the trim around the window frames. Windows I'll probably end up not re-varnishing. I'll probably end up painting them. I think they look a bit naff as the old dark wood varnish. They're hardwood windows and they're double glazed, but I think that needs sort of modernising as well. And then on the far side, the wall that isn't panelled will end up being tiled. There's still the debate whether it will be the brown tiles. I've currently got a few hundred of them sitting in one of the barns, with a mix of some white tiles that I picked up free as well, or whether I'll actually buy a couple of meters worth of tiles from somewhere to fit into that space. So we'll wait and see on that one. That's not been decided as yet. These trims are around about less than 10 millimeters thick, so about 3/8 of an inch thick. So quite flexible. I've got a tenon saw, but I haven't got one on site, so I'm just using a hacksaw, which does kind of the same job as a tenon saw. It makes quite a clean cut because the teeth are quite close together, so you're not ripping the timber down as you would with a sort of standard saw. Fairly easy, obviously, because it's quite thin, fairly easy to cut. This was quite late at night as well, so I didn't want to be using my rip saw to be doing that. Obviously, the neighbours' kids would be in bed by that time. So I thought if I just use a hacksaw, it's fairly quiet work as I'm getting on with it. And it's just overlaying where you've got, I put the power points in on joins, so I thought that would work quite well. And then you'll have the baguette top and bottom on the sockets there, just to finish off the look of the around the paneling. And like I say, I still need to get organised on the surface for the worktop, which I'm contemplating maybe using sort of a bit of insulation, just a sort of 10mm insulation or centimetre insulation, just to bring the height up, and then possibly tiling that section there in between in the recess, so that it's all flush. And then as it works its way around to where the kitchen sink is, then it goes on to an oak effect worktop, which sort of goes around, which you can't see because it's currently covered in a bin liner and paints and stuff. So that's the wire you can see sort of draped across there. That's just a temporary light for the kitchen. I haven't got round to fitting the lights yet in there because I need to finish off painting the ceiling. There's still a bit of fillering to do in the ceiling. There's still a bit of painting to do, so that needs to be taken care of before I can fit the lights. And obviously the downstairs loo still needs a ceiling put in on it as well. So still a fair bit to do, but it's progressing bit by bit. And then here we go, a bit of a walk around. So that's it. So at the end of this is probably about 11 o'clock at night now. The trims are in place, and I'll be able to just caulk around the gaps and then paint them in. I need to put plasterboard on the window on the right hand side there, so that the trim can be finished on that as well. But fairly pleased with the look of that. I think it looked quite nice when it's done, and obviously once the kitchen units are brought in the green, it should look funky, hunky-dory. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, please leave a comment. Comments are probably more important than subscribers are. Thanks.